All right, so yeah, as I was just explaining, I'm going to be showing you guys how to build focus lists and watch lists from scratch, and also how to execute to the best of your ability and really be able to catch some of these names. The beauty of a focus list is having a few names. I think that's probably one of the most important things. I usually like to have about like 5 or 6 maximum, because if you get to like 10, for example, then you're kind of doing too much, right? Like you're having too many like different trades that you're paying attention to. So you want to keep it super simple if possible, and just kind of have like 5 of this or 6 of your favorite names. Even if you do like 4, that's great as well. It really depends on the person, right? So like if you can see that you can multitask and take like 6 trades at a time, then obviously you can keep adding onto your list. But if it looks to you like you're kind of missing some of these trades that you were planning for, the reason why is you're probably looking at too many different names, right? So if you just have a few names that you're looking at, the chances of you catching the trades is much higher when you're only paying attention to a few different stocks than it is obviously if you're looking at like 20 different names, because then you can't really hone in on the names that are kind of working the best, because you're looking at way too many other names, right? If that makes sense. So starting off really quickly, you want to add SPY, QQQ, DIA, and IWM. So when you're making a watch list, these have to be obviously like indexes that you watch, right? So SPY is going to be the S&P, QQQ is going to be the NASDAQ, Dow is going to be the Dow Jones, IWM is going to be the Russell, which is going to be small caps. So you always want to know where the market is. So that's an important an important step to building out your watch list, because we want to know if we're looking to be short the market or if we're looking to be long the market, right? Very simple. Whenever we are above all the moving averages, like we are right here, we want to be long, right? So we see SPY's above, Qs are above, Dow is getting above, IWM is below. We know what we want to focus on, right? We want to focus on SPY and the Qs most likely. Dow, we can start looking at it because it wants to kind of get above the moving averages, but it's not fully above the moving averages yet. So we already know that we focus on SPY, QQQ, and probably mostly going to be focusing on tech just because of how strong it's been. So now that we already narrowed it down to which index we can trade, right, we can start looking at a few different tech stocks. So there's a few ways to do this. I'm going to teach probably the easiest. Obviously, if we're focusing on QQQ, you can go QQQ top holdings, right? So we obviously know that the tech sector has done the best. Today it was like the strongest sector in general. We could literally just look at the top holdings of QQQ and we can add all these names, right? So Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Avgo, Google, Costco, Tesla. So then we already have like 10 names, right? So I'm going to be adding them like this, right? So you already have a few names that you could look at. Let's see if I miss anything. Amazon, Meta. This is obviously a slower way, but I want to show you guys this like all from scratch so you can really get a good understanding. But once you have this set up, you obviously don't have to keep doing this, right? You could just go back and look at the names that you already have. But we want to do this from scratch. So what I like to do is add a section. I'll call this the focus list. And these could be some names that we could look at already because we know the tech sector was strongest. So now we have a few names. Now we want to start adding some more names to kind of look at, right? Like we want to have a list of names. So if we go to this watch list that I have, I already have all these names kind of specified right here. I really encourage you guys to add this watch list that I have. So I'm going to copy the link and put it in the chat right now. You could save it on your trading view. So then when you go on trading view, you could literally already have that watch list set up. And then you could start scanning through this. So this is what I want to do now, right? I want to start slowly scanning through the different sectors and different themes and stuff and see which theme was strong today. So the most important thing is we're looking for strength. Whenever the market is above the 821.50, we're looking for strength, right? It's super important to look for names that are leading and names that are continuing to make new highs, especially when the market is pushing higher. Because if we end up in a name that is weaker compared to the market, especially when the market is super hot, we're just missing out on opportunity costs, right? Like we're tying up money in a name that's not working when the market's working, when there's so many other setups and sectors and themes that are moving. That's where we want our money to be, right? So you have to think about it like that. Unless you're long-term investing, as a trader, you need to be in the best names. And the best names will always show themselves whenever the market is strong, especially. So like today, for example, we had a very strong move on Microsoft. And you can see Microsoft has been making new highs. It just broke out of a big base and it's continued to push higher. So we obviously know this has been one of the best names. What other name was super strong over the past few days? Apple, right? This is probably the best name in the market right now. Continuing to push higher, another 2% day. So these are the types of names that we want to be in. And I'll give you guys a perfect example. Amazon was green today at the close, but it was only a 0.22%, right? So it's not like I'm saying you don't trade Amazon, but I'm saying you don't want to tie up too much capital in this name because it's below the 821.50, right? It's like right at the EMAs, and you can clearly see that when QQQ has a 1.2% day, Amazon's barely green, right? And we don't want to be stuck in a name like that when Microsoft made a 1.3% move, or let's say Apple made a 2% move, or even Netflix made a 1% move. Those are the names you want to be in. So we want to make sure that these names are making new highs, but we also want to make sure we have a tight consolidation or a base, something like this, to trade them in, right? So this is the Netflix look. Again, Amazon, I'm not saying don't trade it. I'm saying let it get tight here. And once it starts to break out and show you strength with the market, that's when we want to take it, because at this point it's just in consolidation. So obviously we could still make money on it here, but the chances of this following through and breaking out, like let's say tomorrow and breaking out over 188, is pretty slim. If you give it like 4 to 5 days or maybe even a week, it can get up here like this, pull back in, and then break out, right? That's exactly what we want to see. So that's why I want to focus on leading names and leading sectors. So right off the bat, I'm going to add Apple. We already have that one on. I think we already have Microsoft on. So off the FANG names, I'd already add Microsoft and Apple because you can see they were the strongest, right? Netflix was pretty good as well, but it didn't close really at the high. I want to see something like Apple closing a bit closer to the high, Microsoft closed a bit closer to the high. The closer a stock closes to the highs of the day, the more aggressive the buyers are and the stronger the stock is, right? That's something we want to know. All right, so then we can continue to move on. We can go to oil. We can see that oil was like kind of strong, kind of not, but overall the sector does look a little bit bad, so I'm not really too interested in it. EV theme is interesting. Don't really like anything, but then I pop over to Tesla, and Tesla does look pretty strong. Now I know this one's not a leading stock in a leading name. I mean, a leading stock in a leading sector. It's definitely not a leading name. This is actually probably one of the weaker names. But I do like the way that it's staying above the moving averages. So you can see here it popped back up above the moving average, and then today it held the moving average and put in a 5% day. So it did have a very strong day today when the market was strong. So this one I would add. I already have it on, but this is a stock that I would add. So now I'm kind of giving you guys a checklist of what to look for, right? Above the moving averages, strong day when the market's strong, especially. And even if the market's weak, for example, you're looking for the names that were strong when the market was weak. That's the most important thing. And names that are still setting up in a base. So even though Tesla did pop out of this trend line right here, it's still in like a 3-day base right here, right? Like it still hasn't really made new highs. It hasn't really pushed through the 190 level. So we have a pretty easy spot to trade it above. Let's say if it gets over 187 tomorrow, then we can look to continue to take this one higher. On this move through 180. So this one we could add to the list. Now going into Bitcoin, it looks like this one was a little bit weaker today, but it held off the low. We could see if anything is strong. So coin I don't really like because it's below the moving averages. Riot I actually do like, right? So the reason why, again, Bitcoin's not a leading stock and a leading name, but this is emerging off the lows. So that we could still look for emerging names, but we do want to make sure that in emerging names, we do want to let it confirm to us that the stock's going to break out, because the chances of a stock breaking out when it's off the lows is lower than a stock that's breaking out off the highs. That's just how it works, because obviously the stocks off the highs are strong, right? But Riot does look pretty good to me. Reason why? It has like a 3-day flag setting up, right? So even though Bitcoin has been a little bit weak, It is holding on to this low. If it can get through like 67K, maybe these miners can get moving. And I do like the setup on Riot. Also, the volume patterns on it are very good as well. So this one gets added to my list. I'll keep going. CLSK does look very good as well. It's just breaking out from this pennant. And it's also above all the moving averages, right? So this is clearly a leading miner in the sector. Now, I know Bitcoin and crypto stocks aren't leading themselves, but this does look like it wants to lead the sector. Very nice volume patterns on the weekly time frame. So this one I would add. Now again, remembering that this one's an emerging name, not really a leading name. You do want to make the difference on that, right? Now going through banks, I'm looking at these. Not really seeing anything I like because they're all below the moving averages, right? I look at the payment processing, not really anything I like, below the moving averages. So not really interested in credit card names. Solar was super weak, so I'm just going to fully skip that. Airlines, nothing I see above the moving averages, so I'm going to skip that. Cruises, nothing above the moving averages. Hotels, now this is something interesting. Now, I usually wouldn't trade these type of stocks with options because the options contracts are very thin. But if you aren't taking too much size on it, these are still names that you could look at. So for example, this caught my eye right away because it's breaking over previous highs. Now, I don't know if it's an all-time high. It actually is. So this is new 52-week highs and new all-time highs, right? And we want to trade leading names. So it looks like the hotel sector is leading, so we could add this one. Now let's look at the rest. I like Booking a little bit more than Marriott. Now this one is very interesting. So it's setting up a huge flag, and we want to look for these type of bases. You can see some volume out of the right side of the base. It's above all the moving averages, and it has a pretty clear level to trade above, 150.5 here, right? So you can see rejection here, also resistance here a few times. So this one, want to add to the list. So onto the workshop. Hilton looks very good as well, but it's right at like resistance here, and it didn't really consolidate into that spot. So this is one that I would probably not trade yet, but I'd keep an eye on it. Now, keep looking. I don't really like GE. It moved too much already. HON looks very good. So this was one that we could add as well. This one's just now breaking out of a base. You can see some volume here on the right side of the base, right? And setting up under this 211 spot. It's closing over that spot as well. So this one looks great. We can add it to our workshop. Thing. I'll keep looking. LLY. The overall healthcare sector doesn't look too good to me. You can see like it's like half red, half green, so I wouldn't really look at it. Vaccine stocks look pretty weak, so just gonna skip that. Retail super strong. Now Costco does look a bit extended, so it's probably not something that I would take, but I want to keep an eye on it. These are weak, so not looking at it. Nike, nothing on it. That Walmart does look very good, so this is one that I would look for, and this one's setting up right under the 67.5 level. The reason why, again, right, this one's tightening up, it's setting up a flag, and it has a very clear level to trade above. Over 67.5, we can look to trigger higher, and you can see a very similar setup here right before it broke out. So these patterns really do repeat themselves. Let me put it to the workshop. All right, so yeah, overall the retail sector is not the strongest though, but we do have some leading names like Walmart, Costco. You can clearly tell are the leading names, so we can add those. Looking at these consumer staples, nothing interesting. Utilities, nothing interesting. Semiconductors. Now we know semiconductors is probably one of the strongest sector in the market right now, so let's do a quick scan. These are already a bit extended to me. AMD's the weaker name in the sector, so probably not interested. AMAT, I really like the way that broke out today. This one was on my focus list yesterday, so I'm going to add that one. SMCI, I like the way it's breaking out above the moving averages. I'm going to add that one. We'll keep going. QCOM broke out already. It's pretty extended. All these kind of extended. Ooh, ARM does look pretty good here, so this would be one that I would like to add. Now, the reason why I like this one is it's because it's setting up under the previous highs. Now, I know it wasn't the strongest today, whereas like Avgo, MU, and SMCI were very strong, but it did put in an inside day. So what that means is tomorrow, if it does break over that inside day high at 163, it could really get moving back up into like 168. So I definitely want this one on my list. DraftKings a little bit extended. Penn does look very good though, so I'm gonna add that one to the list. Let's see, Crowd looks very good, but kind of extended. Net all below the moving averages. Palantir looks amazing. This one is a little bit extended, but I really like the way that one looks, so I'm gonna add it to the list. And then we'll just continue going really quickly. And that's about it, right? So China names usually don't really trade. So now we have a few names to look at. We already have actually a bunch of names, but we want to obviously start narrowing it down in a few minutes. I do want to add a few more though, and I want to show you guys the way I add them as well. So there's a few more things you could do. So that's a very simple way of finding some of these names. Obviously, a lot of it's going to be manual scanning and just kind of seeing what you like. But if you use the checklist that I just gave you guys, it'll be super easy. So the checklist goes as follows. I'm going to write this down on the text, right? So we want to look for leading stocks in leading sectors, right? Now, another alternative would be emerging stocks. And we talked about this in the swing trading masterclass. So I'm going to go over the difference really quickly. Leading stocks are names that are making new 52-week highs and new all-time highs. I'd say to categorize a leading stock, I'd probably say it has to be making at least a new 52-week high, but we do like the names that are making new all-time highs or at least near those highs. An emerging stock is a name that's kind of coming off the low, and it looks something like this where it's in a stage 1 kind of breakout, and it's just starting to move. So ARK would probably still be in a stage 1, but names that are coming off the low, so actually I have a better example for you guys, would be like Hood. So this is clearly not a leading name because look at how far off it is from the all-time high, but it is an emerging name because it is breaking out of a stage 1 base, and it is continuing to push higher and continuing to make new highs above all the moving averages on the weekly and stuff like that, right? But that's a distinction that we want to know for that. Now let's get back to the checklist. I have to make a new one. I think I lost whatever the other one was, but let's just do this again. So leading stocks in leading sectors. How do you find the leading sectors? Let's do this really quickly. FinViz. You can go on FinViz, you can go on like a heat map, you can go literally anywhere you want. This is going to be the easiest way. You're looking at the 1 week performance, 1 month performance, 3 month performance, and half year performance, right? So half year performance, tech is the strongest. 3 month performance, tech is the strongest. 1 month performance, tech is the strongest. So tech, leading sector, right? The half year performance, communication services are the strongest. 3 month communication services are the second strongest. 1 month communication services are the second strongest. So we know comm services are going to be the second strongest sector. So we can already add that to our list. You can obviously look at the 1 week as well, and the 1 day if you really want to kind of like see which ones are the ones that are performing the best on the day. But we already have 2 leading sectors that we know, right? Then we can continue to look down. We can see that consumer defensive was strong 3 month and the 1 month, but it was actually a bit weaker. The 3 month, but it was actually a bit weaker the last month. So probably not something that I would say is the leading sector right now, but it could still be a strong sector in the next few months. But we want to focus on the sectors that are green on the month at least, right? So to me, tech and comm services are really the only sectors that I would really pay the most attention to. Everything else is just kind of noise. So now we can even do a nicer scan here, which I've gone over already, but I'm going to go over it right here again, just so I can show you guys what I would be looking for. So price would have to be at least over $3. Market cap, we're looking for over 2 billion at least. Average volume, we want at least 500K because we want it to be liquid, especially for trading options. I like to look for high relative volume on mine, so I'll do relative volume over 1, but you can look at relative volume lower than 1 as well. But the next thing you want to do, and the most important one, is price above SMA 20. So now we have 40 stocks, and the reason why I did price above SMA 20 is because that shows you the names that are above all the moving averages already. So that kind of narrows down that search that we just did, right? So now we have a list of all the leading names. So you can just kind of go through them. We already know we have Apple on our list. Adobe's just coming off of a gap up, but this could be a PEG setup. So this might be something that we want to add on like our PEG setup list. Then we could see again Autodesk, another one that could be added to our PEG setup. This one gapped up today on new. Actually, this one didn't gap up on earnings. I gapped up probably on news or something, or it might just have been strong. So, but this one you definitely want to add because it's putting in a very strong gap up. We can keep looking. We have AMAT on our list already. Ooh, this is one that I just found that looks really good. I have to kind of zoom in a little bit just to see. But yeah, AMKR looks really good. And we haven't really seen this one. I'd have to look at the options first to really get a good idea. But look at it. It's at the all-time highs, right? So we found a leading name right away that we didn't see before. And it's setting up in a super tight base. Hasn't broken out yet. Exactly what we want. This is exactly what we want. Like, this is absolutely textbook. Like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Whenever I see this, get super, super happy. So 37 is clearly the level. It was a little bit extended today, so I probably wouldn't look to take it tomorrow. What I would love to see is like an inside day, and then the next day, boom, push through that high, push over 37, and then move up. But I'll still add it to my list and potentially have that as a trade for tomorrow, right? So there we go. We already found one stock that looks really good. ANET looks pretty nice as well to me. This one already kind of moved. I think here would have been a little bit better for it. So I think it's a bit extended. So not messing with it. ARM we already have. AVGO we already have. This one doesn't look too good to me. This one doesn't look too good to me. This one, CHKP, we can look really quickly. Probably wouldn't do this one just because it's not as clean. This one looks very good as well, CLBT. This one is setting up under the previous high, so there you go. Another one we could look at. It did fail to break out over 12.65, so what I'd want to see is like a daily close over, but look at how much volume it's had over the past few days there. So we definitely want to add this one, CBLT. And we can obviously continue to go, right? There's only 4 pages, so you can do this really quickly. Crowd, for example, we talked about already. DV, I don't like. FORM, not really favorite. GFS, not really the favorite. This one's not really favorite. What I'm looking for, just really quickly, is just like tightness on them, right? So there you go, like perfect example, MKSI. I'm looking for names that haven't really moved yet because we're probably not looking to chase some of the entries. So like a name like this that's still in base is perfect. This one's not at all-time highs, but it does have a pretty big volume gap up to like 162 it seems. So this one does look pretty interesting. So I'd look over like 136. So we can add this one to the list. Again, some of these I'll take them off just because the options aren't too strong, but you could trade equity on them if that's what you want to do. And then you can keep looking. Microsoft we already have, MU we already have, and ATL looks pretty interesting. So we'll look at that one. Oh, this one looks really good. So another really nice one setting up out of a huge IPO base. So we definitely want to take this one on the list. Keep going, we'll do this quickly. Net, not really liking that one because it's below the 821.50. Oracle looks absolutely fantastic, so we're gonna add this one. It has a PEG setup, just broke out, right? It is a little bit far away from the ADMA, so maybe give it a few days to get closer to that 8-day, but it does look really good. This is below, we already have Palantir. This one's not looking that good. We already have the QCOM, I don't like this. We already have SMCI. SNPS looks interesting, I've never heard of that name. Looks pretty good, but I could tell this one has terrible options, so I probably wouldn't trade it, but you never know. You still want to add it to your list. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that you do want to make sure these are liquid options on these. So what I look for is the at least to have over a 500 OI. So let's just do an example together. Like let's look at SNPS, just so I can give you guys like a better idea of what I'd be looking for. Let's do SNPS here. Synopsis. Let's look at the open interest for, let's do July 19. Actually, these are going to be liquid because they are only OPEX. So yeah, actually this one I would trade. Now I know obviously some of you, this is too big for the contracts, but look at the open interest on it. It's 1,000 on the open interest. So I would definitely trade this actually. As long as it has over 500, so like something like this even was pretty good. The volume is a little bit low. I would like over like 100 at least. But this 650 call, we can definitely trade. So I'd definitely keep this one on my list because it does look like it's not too illiquid on that one. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this scan. Now, last scan that I would do, I know it's a lot. This is what I do literally every single night. So if it seems like a lot, it's because there is a good amount of work that is put into finding these stocks, right? It's not just like an easy magical scanner. Obviously, we could make our lives easier and do these type of scans, but a lot of it's just manual review, just kind of like looking over a lot of these names. So let's look at this. So sorry, I didn't even tell you guys what the scan was. So the next scan I do, very, very simple, is just a relative volume scan. So I'll go to filters right here. I'll put just only green stocks, so anything above 0.01. Relative volume over 1.1, right? And that's going to show me the names that have gotten a lot of volume. Reason why we want to know that is because the higher the volume, the more aggressive buyers were, and the higher the likeliness of continuation for the next couple of days is, right? So I want to find names that were super strong with high volume. We already have Tesla, we already have Palantir. So what I do is just kind of just scroll through these really quickly. I usually look for names that I already know are pretty liquid. So like I'll look at Amazon, for example. I know that one's liquid. I'll look at Dell. Dell had a very nice move. We definitely want to look at this one. So I know it's not leading and it gapped down from earnings, but it does have a gap to fill at this 145 spot. And it's back above the moving averages, and it held right into the previous breakout level. So if you're just looking at the weekly, for example, it's just retesting the weekly breakout. So it does look pretty good. So this is one that I would add to my list. So boom, we have Dell, Micron we already looked at, Snapchat. Okay, so Snapchat we really like as well. So this one, not the strongest today, but still up 1.6%. And the reason why I like this one is because it hasn't really broken out yet. So I still really like the way that it looks. So definitely going to add this one to the list. And also, it obviously came up on the higher relative volume scan as well. Microsoft we already have. Peloton, let's see. This one don't really like. This one doesn't really have any setups on it. Just going to go through them really quickly. It's what I usually do. Just kind of quick scan, go through these, see if there's anything that I like. SMCI we already have. And I'll usually sort it by like the highest volume. So like we'll start off with like the highest volume, and then we'll go down to the names that are a little bit less volume. And I'll usually go until like names that are like 500K volume, because I don't want to really look at names that don't have too much volume. So Best Buy is breaking out here. This one looks really good actually, but it is a little bit extended. However, we can add it to our side watch, so that's another thing that we can do. Airbnb does look a little bit interesting. It's not above the moving averages, so I probably wouldn't size it too much. But I like the way that it's holding the lows and tightening up, and it has a huge gap to fill, so maybe it could be interesting. And it was green today, so it's not like it's weak, so definitely add that one to the list. We already did ADSK. Let's see, SE. This one's a little bit slow at the highs. Not really too nice on it. Netflix we already looked at. Under Armour, maybe, but not a tech name, so probably not. Gonna look at it. STLD, this is steel, so again, probably not gonna look at it, but steel did have a pretty nice day today, it seems. CLX, nope. And there you go, that's about it. So those are all the names. So you can see that's a pretty quick scan. Like that's really all you need to do. And now we just narrow it down, like very simple. So now I'm just narrowing it down to the names that have a trigger level that I could trade. So some names might have an amazing setup, like going into tomorrow, but they don't have a clear level to take it over. So those names are still going to be on like my side watch, but they're not going to be on my focus list, right? So there's like a distinction between those two. That doesn't mean I'm not going to trade the side watch. It just means that they might not be ready to move yet. But we'll do this quickly, and I'll show you guys which names I would put on the watch list, which ones I would put on the side watch. So Microsoft, right off the get-go, already moved too much today. There's not really anything super tight on it, so I would put it on the side watch list. Tesla, I think that this one's still tight. I know it moved a lot today, but I still think it's tight because it hasn't really broken out over previous highs yet. So this one I would probably put on my focus list. Now, I wouldn't really say it has an amazing level to trade over just yet, but over 189 would probably be my starter like breakout position on it. So that's where I would choose to have the breakout level on it. If I find any other names that look good, I might take this one off, but for now that's going to be the first one on the focus list. AVGO is definitely going to be on the side watch, a little bit extended. Nvidia definitely going to be on the side watch. Now Apple is interesting, but looks a little bit extended, so probably going to be on the side watch. Amazon probably going to be on the side watch. Meta, I think, could definitely make the watch list because this one didn't really move much today. So if tomorrow it stays up, I think if we can get through today's high right here, you can see that's a clearly big level there at like 510, 511. It can move higher. So this one I definitely want on my focus list. For that, Google looks good as well. Let's see the hourly, if there's a clear level to trade it over. I'd say there's a clear level to trade it here over today's high at 178. Reason why, you could see that was clearly an important spot here a few times. Right there, rejected, right there, right? So if we can get a clear break over 178.3 with volume, we can definitely trade that. So Google is going to be on my focus list. It's also in a super tight base, so it looks really good. Riot looks like it could be on my focus list as well. On the hourly, again, we have a very good level here to trade it over 11. So yeah, this one could definitely be on the list. Super tight on the daily as well. CLSK probably not going to be on the list. It's already a bit extended, already made its move, so we're going to move it down. BKNG looks good, but already made its move. This one could definitely be on the list. On the hourly, it is a little bit extended, but it is under the 150.4 spot. And that looks to be like a potential trigger. So we'll leave it for now on that. HON, this one already looks to me like it's breaking out. So probably going to put it on the side watch. I know there's some other names that I didn't look at yet. All right, so Walmart is definitely going to be a focus list candidate. Now I know this one's not a tech name, so I am going to be a bit careful with it. As I mentioned to you guys, right now we're really just wanting to trade tech names, right? Anything else that's not a tech name is probably just going to hold up your cash and not really do much. So that's why I would probably take out H and Walmart, and that's why you guys recently haven't really seen me trade any of these type of stocks, just because all the other names have just moved so well. But these could be some interesting names for a longer term swing with equity and stuff like that. Just for options, I think it might be better to just have your capital on these names that are really moving. But we'll keep it on for now, just for the sake of the watch list creation. SMCI looks very good, but I don't see a trigger level on it. Penn, I don't see a trigger level on it. This one's extended. Adobe, we're just looking for a gap up on that. ADSK, not really seeing anything on this one. This one's still a bit extended, so I'd keep it on there. This is definitely the wrong stock. Now MKSI, this one is in producer manufacturing, but it is in the NASDAQ, so that is interesting. It's not necessarily a tech name, but it is in the NASDAQ. But again, I don't really see a level to trade it on, so I'm probably going to skip that. Don't really see a level to trade that one. This one's a bit extended. This one's just breaking out now, so probably not anything on it. Now Dell, I would definitely add to my list. The reason why is because it has a clear level to trade, super clear. It's so clear that it's scary clear, because you can see that we rejected right at that spot today in the morning, right? So it's right at this gap. So we know that if we get in this gap, there's almost a 15% move to fill up. Now, obviously, that's not going to be our main target all the way up into that high, but these gaps do fill quickly if we get into that spot, right? Especially when we're above all the moving averages and we have some nice volume off the lows. Could definitely be interesting. So this would definitely go straight on the list. Snap, I think I want to have this one on the list, but I don't really have a level to trade it over. we'll just put it on for now. I think maybe over 16.5 could be my spot. That would be today's high. Then Airbnb could be good as well, similar to like Dell, where it has the gap to fill. But it did look like it tried to fill the gap here and then kind of rejected. So probably say this would be like a very high maybe, just based off the way it looked. So that's pretty much it. Like, there you go. You have a fully functioning list. Probably gonna use a lot of these names for my full list tonight. It's probably gonna be refined a little bit because there is about like 8 of them. I'm probably gonna end up leaving like Tesla, Meta, Google, Riot, Dell, and Snap. Because as I mentioned, like these 2 names not in the leading sectors, so we want to be a bit careful with that. But this is probably what I would look for. And then from there, we just look for those 5-minute breaks over, right? So now we need to know how to execute. That's the most important part. So now that we found these setups, we want to know how to execute. It does look like today, by the way, there isn't like the best looking setups. I usually like to see a lot more tightness. But obviously we know a lot of names broke out today, so kind of expanded out of their bases already. So the next, like the following day, for example, you want to be a little bit careful on names that are already a little bit extended. That's why I always will put like names that are still in consolidation on the focus list. So like you can see like Tesla, Meta, Google, they're still all kind of in consolidation. So I'm not really looking to chase like the names that moved today already, like Microsoft and stuff like that, even though they are the leading names. We want to pay attention to them, but we don't want to take entries on them, right? Like, for example, we already took a good entry on Microsoft when it broke out today. We don't want to take another entry tomorrow when it's already extended. We want to look for a retest, or we want to look for it to tighten back up. So that's a big thing that you want to make sure that you understand as well. All right, so now that we have some names, we want to get the exact level we want to trade them over. So I already kind of went over a few levels with you guys, but let's do this one more time. So you're looking for a resistance level that price hasn't been able to break out above, or it's rejected multiple times, right? So very, very simple. Usually they'll be like, these levels are going to be like apparent so like easily, right? So like you'll be able to see them just very, very clearly. Let me take off all of these so you guys can just see very clear right now, right? I don't even have to draw any lines or anything. I know that right here we rejected once. I know that right here we rejected again. I know that right here we rejected once. We rejected here at the high, and then now we're rejecting here, right? So now if I draw like a kind of like a box, because we don't have a singular level that it rejected, like a right on the money type of level, but we do have like a nice box of supply here. Like we know that sellers are really actively trying to defend these spots, right? I didn't draw it all the way up here because this to me looks like a little bit of like an outlier of a sell, but we have these spots right here. So we already know that we're pushing into this spot right here. We rejected today's high, which was at 189. To me, just very simply, I'm looking over the previous day's high. If you look at the smaller time frames, like the 15-minute or even the 5-minute, you can see that that's going to be the level to get through next. Like we're setting up pretty well into that spot. We did reject a little bit into the close, but the whole market did as well, right? So if we can get over 188.8, which is the high, we could easily target 191, right? And we know that we have a pretty interesting level here at like 187 we could use as a stop loss. So we can target 191, use 187 as a stop loss. Obviously, if we break over 191, this one's just going to push all the way up to like 200. It has a gap to fill here, has some room up to that high. So this one could be a really nice one to take. I know it is a little bit extended, so I'd probably be a little bit careful with it, but that would be a way to look to get our level, right? So now what I would do is just outline that on my chart. So 188.7 is going to be the, oh sorry, it's 188.81. So you want to make sure you're to the T on it. And then all I'm doing is just setting an alert, right? So set an alert over that high. And then when it triggers, you're just looking for a 5-minute close over. Very, very simple. 5-minute close over is going to confirm to you that a breakout is occurring. And the reason why you're looking for a 5-minute close over is because let's look at Microsoft this morning. So my trigger level for it was 433.5. Look at what happened this morning, right? Huge wake up. How many people got trapped up here and then sold here at the lows just for it to move all the way back up and break out, right? Probably a lot of people. That's why you want to be careful with trading, let's say firstly the first 5 minutes and like the first 10 minutes even, and then not waiting for a 5-minute confirmation, because you'll get faked out like this. So you'll have no 5-minute close over, no trade. 5-minute close here, trade, right? This is our entry. So that's why I wait for that 5-minute close over on the stock. And then you could pick a level to use as a stop loss. What I usually do is I'll look to see something that makes sense. So sometimes it's going to be low of day, like the day's low for the day that I'm looking at for the entry. Sometimes it's going to be the prior day's low. At this point, the prior day's low is obviously way too far away, so that doesn't really make sense. And then we could look at a previous level, right? So as I was mentioning to you guys, it looks to me like 185.6, 186 is kind of an important spot, because here we rejected a few times, right? Now here we're kind of starting to turn the spot into like support here, right? So maybe you need to be a little bit more flexible with the stop here, or get like a better level for this. Maybe tomorrow see if it holds any of these levels first, and then kind of use the low of day stop as well. But then that's how we would set it up, right? So now we have a stop, now we have an entry, and we have a target, previous day's high, right? Sorry, not previous day's high, the previous highs at the previous price levels. So like 191 would be our first target. Now we can zoom all the way out, look at the daily time frame, what level looks to be like makes sense to you next for our target. It's pretty simple, 198, right, at the high there. So if we get over 191, we know 198 is the next target. And now we know we could hold, right? That's the most important thing, because some of you might be selling way too early because you don't have conviction in your trade plans. And it might be just because you don't even have a plan at all. So you might be one of those people who get an amazing entry, but then you sell at 20%, you sell all your position, and then you basically only make like 20% where you could have made like 100%, right? Now, I'm not saying every single trade you're going to have to hold to 100%, but if you have a plan for your trade and if you have targets, you're going to be able to catch these moves all the way up into the highs, right? Like, you're going to be able to catch bigger moves when you have conviction to hold through for targets, because you know that price, if it breaks 191, it should test 199. You just know that because most of the time, whenever there's technical analysis like this, these probabilities are high for you to retest previous levels whenever price does break through an important zone. It's just how price moves. It moves through zones. It moves from liquidity to liquidity, right? And there's only liquidity at highs. There's only liquidity at lows. So that's why price kind of uses those as magnets to move to different levels. Now, next one, right? So Tesla, our plan is very simple. Over 177, or sorry, over 188.8. We take the trade, 5-minute close over, we target 191. Then we have 198 as the next target. We put our stop loss probably at around like 186, or we could use whatever stop loss makes sense to us tomorrow. And then the next thing you want to do is choose an option already that you're looking at. I hate looking at options the same day. I think to me it makes no sense, and it also sometimes might like take too long, and then the trade might already be kind of breaking out and moving, and you're already like missing out some of the trade, like some of the breakout, right? Like with breakout trades and trading in general, margins are so important that like a 5% margin can honestly make or break you. Like think about 5% every single day, that ends up adding up a lot, right? Like if you could have been 5% better every single day, that adds up to a lot at the end of the year. So that's why margins are super important. These little things are super important. So you want to already have the idea of what call you want to take. So what I do the night before is I look to see what call makes sense when we break over that level. And I also look to see the quote on that call where the stop loss is. So what I mean by that is like I'll look to see, for example, what the 190, let's say the 190 calls is what we're trading on Tesla for like next week. I'll look to see what that 190 call is going to be worth if it hits my stop loss at 167, right? So I'll compare the quotes to the price, and then I'll see if that makes sense. So if it's less than like a 20-30% risk, then I know that trade makes sense. And I'll see what it's going to be at when it hits 191 to see if I'm going to be up more than 30%, right? Because we want to be up at least more than we are going to be down on our max stop loss. Like our first target needs to be higher at least by 1%, than our max stop loss. So like let's say if our max stop loss is 30%, we want to have a 31% win if we do hit our first TP. Usually I like to keep it a little bit higher, those type of ratios. Like I usually like to go for like a double. So what I mean by that is like a 30% loss on max stop loss for a 60% first trim. Now sometimes obviously you can't get those ratios exactly and stuff like that, but you do want to make sure you have an idea of all of this, because think about how much I just explained and how much goes into looking at every trade before we actually take the trade, and then think to yourself, this is all time that I would have wasted doing all of this when a trade is breaking out, right? Like versus doing all this the night before, having it planned out, knowing my exact contract that I'm taking, knowing the exact quotes and stuff, and already knowing if my stop loss makes sense and if that stop loss is something I'm willing to risk, right? Because obviously I don't want to risk 60-70% on an option. That makes no sense. Like that, I'm just gonna be down way too much. I'm gonna have to have a strategy where I'm making like 100% on every target profit before like breaking even or even making profit. So you want to make sure everything makes sense before you are taking these trades. So what I would do is look at the next, usually like, let's do this live so I can show you guys. I'll go to like Tesla, for example, right here, and then I'll look at the strikes. So right now, I'm probably not going to be trading any weeklies on it. I'll probably be looking at next week or the week after next week. Sometimes I'll choose next week depending on how much I think the trade needs to take. But if the trade looks really ready to go, then really next week's contracts is all I need. So I'll go in here, I'll look to see what we have. We're at trading at 187. So usually what I like to do is take the next strike out the money. So that would be 190. Not 187.5 because we're literally trading like right at that strike, so that's kind of like at the money. I like to look at the next strike out the money, 190, and then I like to see, I like to make sure that obviously the OI and the volume is going to be high, but obviously we know like Tesla's super liquid stock, so it's going to have super high OI, super high volume, so we don't have to worry about that. So this is probably going to be the option that I'm going to choose, 190 call at June 28. But if this is something you can't afford and you want cheaper, you could look at like the 195, right? Like it could be still something that makes sense. You just have to look at it the night before and see if it makes sense. Like, is the delta high enough for me to be able to make some decent money before the theta kicks in and kills my contract? If it is, then yeah, that makes sense, right? So we want to look at that. And that could be something that works really well. Actually, the implied volatility is also really good on Tesla here. I was expecting it to be a lot higher with like a 5% move today. So that's really good as well. You want to look at that on the contracts as well. So like the lower the better. Under 50% is honestly pretty good on like a high beta name like Tesla. So contracts are nice on that. Definitely would be nice. All right, so that's everything just for one name. So you see how much time that took, right? So we want to make sure we're doing this actively every single night just so we save our time during the day, right? That's super important. So next one is going to be Meta. This one, I'm looking at the daily and I already see a level that looks very, very important. Clearly the previous day's high, today's high is going to be important because we rejected there. And then the, see right here, we rejected a few times, rejected here, right? So you can tell this like 510 level is a pretty big nuisance. Now I know these levels aren't like to the T. It might be a little bit harder for you guys to like see this and be like, why am I putting these levels here and like not at the previous high? Sometimes you just kind of get an idea of what levels look a little bit more important to you, but all levels are important at the end of the day. It's just like which levels are more important and which levels look to be like where sellers are really trying to defend. But there's always going to be like levels and there's always going to be sellers and there's always going to be like different types of orders and stuff on the tape, right? Like even, for example, at a level that makes no sense, there could be a bunch of different orders that come in. The market's like ongoing and changing and stuff like that. We're just looking at the levels with the highest probabilities. That's really the mindset that you should be kind of thinking about, because nothing's ever going to be perfect, right? Like these levels might look good, but then obviously they're not going to be perfect. Sometimes breakouts fail. Some things always can go the other way. You just have to make sure that you understand that it's all probabilities. Sometimes the probabilities will fail. That's why we always manage our risk first. That's the most important thing. But now we have a pretty decent level to look at. I'm thinking over 510.68. We can look to target 513. Very similar to like Tesla, this candle here, anything like right off the open that sells off to me usually is not great resistance. That might sound pretty like stupid to hear, But to me, the best or like the hardest resistance for price to get above is a level that's been established. The reason why is because sellers are really trying to defend that spot because there's so many orders that are already piled up onto that spot. So what I mean by that is like when when Meta sold off here in this morning, like really quickly, it sold off super quick. So there wasn't enough time for orders to be piled up at these highs, right? So we know if we break over this 510 level, obviously sellers will be trying to defend the spot because it is a previous high, but there wasn't enough orders really accumulated here to really still be in effect when price ends up getting back into that spot. So that could be a level that kind of looks like a deceptive level of resistance, but it's more so just an easy level to get through, in my opinion. That's how I see those, and that's why I mentioned the same thing with Tesla. Like this move right here, for example, to me, obviously, it was a very big rejection, but it happened super fast. I don't really think there's too much resistance into this spot right here. There's obviously a lot of resistance at the high, but into this spot right here, not really. You can clearly see that where we got like a really clean break over that level here today. Like we pushed through that spot super easy. So that would be the level I'd look for Meta. So now very simple. I'm just gonna be looking at the options, right? So I'd do the same thing that I just did on Tesla. I'm looking at the options. Again, probably going to be looking at next week's, maybe the week after that, just depending on how much time I think the trade needs. And then I'm looking at the options. So super low IV for Meta, which is good. Super high OI on most of these. The best ones look to be like the 510s and the 520s have the best OI for this expiration. So probably 510 is what I look to take. It might be a little bit expensive, so let's say we'll go for the 520s because it's a bit cheaper. And it does look like actually, you know what? I wouldn't go with the 520s because they were red on the day. So the 520s were the premium was red. So that's something you want to make sure you look at because the stock was green and the premium was red here. So that's maybe a bit too far out the money. So I'd probably stick with the 510s or the 512s if you want, because those ones were green. 515 even maybe because it was up 4%. So I'd probably stick with that. If you see that the premiums are like down like this, for example, it's probably because it's too far out the money. So probably wouldn't touch that one. But yeah. So I'd probably pick like 510 would be my call on that. And then again, break over 511 or let's say 10.84, which is the high. 5-minute break over, I'm targeting the previous high at 514. So I have my target. And then from there, if we break over 514, we know we can easily hit like 518, 520, 523, right? And then our stop loss could be the level right here, like this level right here, like 507, right? Because we know that looks to be like a pretty important spot. Obviously, the stop loss here isn't really as clean as we want it to be. But maybe tomorrow we could look at like for a low of day, right? That's usually what I do. So like we know that that Meta is probably going to open somewhere around here. So if it breaks out tomorrow, for example, that's your target. And then you could have the stop loss as like low of day, right? So like right there would be your stop loss, if that makes sense, at that spot. So usually I like to use low of day stop just for that reason. It gives you like a clean area to trade against. But that would be the level that I would be watching. And that's the plan on that. Now Google, we like this one as well. We have a clear level to trade it over 178.42. You can see that's clearly a big resistance spot, very similar to all the other ones you just saw. Rejected, right? So we know that we don't want to look at this one, and it's rejecting into the highs. So 178.35 would be my level. And again, going to be doing the same thing, just looking at which options contracts to take. See. Okay, so here we go. So I'd probably again do like next week contracts on this. I usually, you know what, if the base is as big as like Google and it hasn't broken out yet, I will go one more week out because I want to hold this one a little bit longer because it does have a lot of potential to continue to push higher for quite a while. So I will look at that. And then again, yeah, next strike out the money. So 180 is probably going to be my spot. 177.5 is a bit close to the money. 180 would be perfect. So 180 at 2.39 would probably be the one that I would want to go with. You could see some really good open interest, some really good volume and stuff like that. So that's what I would be looking for. And then again, target would just be like the previous high, 180, and then from there you can continue to go higher. You could do a little bit of like a measured move on what you would want to look at. Kind of do that, and then you can see 187 could be a potential target as well. And then stop loss could be at 177.8 or here at 177.24, which I think would make more sense because you could see that was a pretty important level here, and then we held into that spot until the close. So 177.2 would probably be my stop loss. Then look to target all the way up into 180.33. So then we have that. Riot, very similar. Looking for a break over 11.2. Reason why, you can see on the daily, that's going to be a big resistance level. On the daily today we rejected, day before we rejected, right here we rejected that spot. So we're looking for a break over that 11.3 spot. Going to be doing the same thing that we've been doing. Just going to keep scanning these premiums. Riot, I think, again, similar to Google, I want to take a little bit more time on it because it is looks like a pretty big base. It looks like the 11 calls are pretty good. With something like Riot, you want to be a little bit careful going too far out the money because it is a $10 stock. So like the next one out the money to me would be the 11 one. I think that one would be pretty good. But you can go 11.5. The only thing is the volume on that one is a little bit low. And the 12 one to me seems a little bit too far out the money. So I would probably decide to go with the 11 call, and then that's the one that I would trade. So now that we know over 11.3, we're looking for a 5-minute close over. We can target 11.37 here at the high, right? We can target this gap fill here at 11.5. We can target the full gap fill all the way up into 11.9. So here we have 3 targets, and then our stop loss could potentially, this might be a bit too big. I'd have to see how much of a loss this would be. But we could target, or sorry, have that, yeah, at 7%. That's a bit too big. I would say probably then just like this area right here, 10.57, or just tomorrow if there's a low of day, obviously we know we could just do that as well. So you always want to make sure that your stop losses make sense. Like this is obviously a good level to have the stop loss at, 10.22, but not if we enter here at the highs, right? We need to make sure we enter closer to here if that's going to be our stop loss. Like we don't want to have our stop loss too far away from where our entry is. So that would be the trade on that. Dell, same thing, looking for a break over 144.68. I'd probably choose the 145 call for June 28 just because of the fact that that's a whole number, probably going to have really good OI, and it's the next strike out the money. And the stop loss would probably be here at like 141. And then we could target like this 150 level, so up until like here. We can target continuation of the gap up until like 159, right? So it has a huge gap fill, so we can take it all the way up through that. And then Snapchat, I would probably put the trigger level at 16.6, which is the previous day's high, today's high, and then look to target like 16.17. This one would probably be like the 17 call for like July. The reason why is because, again, it's still in a really big base, so I think this one might be good to take some time on it. So the July one, we could see like, the 17 call is pretty cheap, so we can do that one. Or we can even do the, actually no, yeah, we'd probably do the 17 call for July. So at like 0.48, this one looks really good to me. Look at how much open interest these have, really, really nice, so super liquid, which is great. So that's probably what I would choose. And then for Snapchat, stop loss is probably going to be here like 15.8. That to me looks pretty good. Then you could target like this gap here up to like 16.4, 16.6, 17.27, right? So that's pretty much a super in detail breakdown of how to scan for these, and also how to execute as well, right? Because scanning is probably the easier part. It's really just kind of like repetition. Like think about it like anything else. The more you look at something like out on the outside world, the more you're gonna be noticed to like picking up things that are going to be happening. It's the same thing with stocks. It's like the more you look at something, the more you're going to learn and the more you're going to know what's going to happen, right? Like if you're looking at like, let's say a sports game and you see a player doing the same thing over and over and over again, you probably know it's going to like happen again, right? It's going to be something similar. Now obviously sometimes you might see something different, and that's when you want to like kind of learn and adjust. but that's going to add more to like your experience and like your tools and kind of seeing how the market continues to react and move and kind of navigate around certain levels and stuff. And you're always watching volume in these things as well. Like you're always developing the skill of watching these charts. And to whoever says TA doesn't work is super stupid, because technical analysis isn't obviously a holy grail, but it's probably the only, or I'd say probably the most effective way to manage your risk, which is literally the only thing that sets aside someone who's gambling in the stock market to someone who's consistently making profits in the stock market, is someone who's managing risk first. Because you can have so many trades that go well, one trade that wipes everything out, and then you're an unprofitable trader, right? Or you're just a gambler. But you can have a bunch of small trades that get stopped out, and then a few really good winners that end up running and continuing to move higher. Like for example, MU, if you guys remember, we traded that one all the way last week. I added that one on Monday, and still in that name, right? Just from continuing to roll it over, continuing to stay in the winning names. Same thing with Snapchat. We added that one on Friday, and then I added a rollover, and we continued to trade it, continued to stay in the name until it stops making new highs, right? Like we can continue to ride the momentum of some of these trades, and as long as we ever tie our stops super tight, we should be able to take these little paper cuts, 20%, 20, 30%, 40, maximum like 35% losers, but then we're getting like 50, 60, 70%, 100% winners, right? And continuing to ride the momentum on them, and sometimes even more if we continue to stay in the same name. So that's really the goal of trading and kind of looking at it that way. And as you continue to look at charts and you continue to kind of grow your skills, you'll be able to really see things develop in real time and also kind of know what's going to happen next. Like sometimes you might have that, I'm not sure if this happens to anybody else, but if you're looking at a chart and you have like that intuition that something's going to happen, like for example, if you see a stock that looks like it wants to pull back, and you're in the position and you have calls, for example, and you're long, and you want it to go up, but you think it's going to go down because you've seen the same thing happen over again in the stock market, and it looks like the chart is not looking too good, it looks like it's going to pull back, and it does end up pulling back, but you didn't reduce your size or whatever because you were in calls, right? You were in the position. Then you kind of understanding the like psychological and mental part of the game as well. Like you're seeing everything kind of developing in real time and knowing what's going to happen, and then you can also, obviously it will also help you make adjustments as well. Usually I don't like to deviate from my plan though, so like even if I do see that on stocks in real time, I usually don't really like to deviate from my plan. I usually like to see a stock look really strong before entering, so like I'll watch the name for a little bit, see how it's acting, how it's reacting to certain levels and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that you're going to be learning with technical analysis is really all just a lot of screen time and just continuing to look at charts. If you have free time, I really recommend 30 minutes to like an hour a day is really all you need. Like honestly, you guys don't really have to sit here for like 5 hours on charts. Too much could be even like too much, right? Like too much could be over analysis. It could be like too much frying up your brain. A lot of the time during the market, you're looking at charts anyways, so that's really when you want to be studying these things. But like, I do want you guys to review your trades. I want you to go over different things and kind of learn and continue to establish your toolbox and stuff like that, and kind of continue to work on that. And as I said, yeah, experience is going to really get you to that point where you're eventually going to be able to see a chart. You're going to be like, this one looks really good. I already know that this is one that I'm going to be trading tomorrow. Now, obviously, you want to have the plan and everything set up on it as well, but that's kind of my thought process on that and how I think about it. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up. Hopefully this will eventually end up helping you make your own lists and stuff like that. I really want you guys to attempt to make these lists. I know a lot of people that have made like focus lists or scanned for a lot of names and then sent me the names. If that's what you want to do, I'm more than happy to look at the names that you have written down, and then I can give you my opinion on them. Just know I'm obviously going to be 100% honest. If I don't like the name, I'm not going to tell you that I like it, right? So if it looks bad to me, I'm going to tell you that I don't like it. So, and then I'm going to tell you what you should be looking for my strategy at least. Obviously, everyone's strategy is different. Some names could look good for some people, some names could look bad, but for what I look for. So yeah, if you guys want to get to that, do your own scans and stuff like that. Try to use whatever I just told you guys about to utilize that strategy. I should have this. Okay, I think. So this is the watch list. Let me know if this one is the actual watch list. I think I shared the wrong thing. But yeah, go over these, like look through them, stuff like that. You can even add your own names, like if there's names that I'm missing. But yeah, send me the names that you guys are looking at. Like I want you to make your own list and stuff. Obviously, if you don't have time, it's fine. Just follow along the focus list that I make. Regardless, I put in the time every single day to make these for you guys. So if you don't have time, that's understandable. A lot of people are busy with a lot of other things. If you do have the time and you think you have some time to set aside, I definitely recommend doing this every night because it will really, really like speed up your learning process. To me, what really helped in the beginning is really just looking at charts like a lot, right? I didn't get profitable until I started trading with charts. I mean, I tried at the beginning trading like ERs and stuff like that and just like stupid things. You're not gonna be able to consistently make money off of that. Like the only way to really have a consistent way to make money is to be to have a system, right, and a repeatable process that you can use. And I think charts provide you that. But this will really fast track this for you. If you look like every night at the charts, you'll start to really pick up and learn, especially if you ask questions in the chat, do some chart requests, send me what you guys are looking at, stuff like that. Will really help you guys kind of pick up the skill. Am I looking for a full body and wicks close over the trigger level? Yeah, so full body needs to close over. Full body needs to close over. I honestly don't know what my trading view thing I use. I think I use the one that gives you like 20 indicators. I'm not really sure which one that is. But I honestly don't need more than like 3 indicators, so I would say probably get the cheapest one. Like you don't really need anything more than that. Could I give you names for equity to hold for the next 10 months? Yeah, I actually was supposed to share my long-term list with you guys. Honestly, I completely forgot, so thank you for reminding me. I'll definitely be sending that today. So there'll be a few names in there. When 2K accounts start? Monday. I'm gonna do all the chart requests in like 5 minutes, okay? I want to get through all the questions that relate to this first, and then I'll do some chart requests for you guys. So anyone have questions on any of the charting and stuff like that, or any of the scanning and the focus list stuff that I talked about? And then I'll do a chart request for you guys. Good tip, if the contract is too expensive, do not go far out the money. Just get in on the play and wait for the next play that's cheaper and closer to the money so you make money faster. Times you're way far out the money. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't want to be way too far out the money. The only time you really want to be far out the money is when you're taking a lotto or like a rollover with profits, and you think that the stock can continue to make a really big move. But yeah, I think too far out the money is probably like really depends on like the average daily range of the stock. But like let's say on like a 5% ADR stock, I'd say too far out the money is probably like 15%. Basically just the exact opposite when looking at puts. Exactly, yeah. So when we're looking at puts, we're gonna do the exact opposite scan. So like we'll go on Finviz, and then we'll actually look for these stocks, right? So you can see energy, for example, looks like a good short. So like last 3 months, week, last month, week, last 1 week, week. So that's what we'd be looking at. And then for the trading view one, I know you said you want to look at the parameters. Let me pop that up for you right now. Very simple. So just change would be above 0.01, which means that the stocks are going to be green. Relative volume over 1.1. That's literally all I do. And then I just sort it from volume. So like instead of doing it like stocks that don't have a lot of volume, I'll click the volume one here, and then I'll like sort them from the ones with the highest volume all the way down. And then for like for like a for when the market's weak, we'll just go below, right? Like 0.0. So that's just going to show you all the red stocks. So like you'll just do an inverse of the same scan. Same thing for like Finviz. But when we get to like if we're obviously gonna get a market that's gonna pull back and stuff, I mean I'm assuming you're gonna be in the Discord for that. If not, then just obviously what I said right now, just keep that in mind. If you are, then obviously at that point we'll go over that as well and stuff like that. Like right now, obviously market's super strong, so I'm not gonna be looking at puts for a while. But if and when the market does pull back, I'll obviously kind of share with you guys the process as well on that, and kind of update you on exactly what I would do as well. What percentage stop do I normally use? I try not to go less than or more than a 30% max stop. So like 30% is really going to be my max stop, sometimes 35%, but no more than that. Sometimes I will have a stock that gaps down when I'm swinging, for example, and it might take out the max stop. But usually I never see myself down more than like 45%. But try to keep it to 30% maximum. And then usually I'd say like the normal stop outs usually around like 20% loss. Would I send my trade ideas with entry, exit, and stops daily? I don't really know what that means. Like all my alerts are in the Sean Plays channel. So like there is exact entries, exits, everything in there. Oh, new here? Okay. Yeah, so go to actually I'm gonna send you the channel. So if you go in that channel, you could see that like I have my exact alerts on there. So like you could see today I took Microsoft in the morning. You can see the exact contract, so like 540 call, June 28 at 310. Actually, let me move this over so I can show you on the live. But yeah, you can see like Netflix, for example, on Friday, Microsoft, right? All the sales are going to be here, all documented, stuff like that. And then I'll also recap all my positions and stuff like that at the end of the day, so you know exactly what I'm swinging and all that good stuff. Okay, move this back over. I'm gonna stay on the live. I'm just gonna